I was actually surprised to learn that you had popped in. Well, we're live, so notification should go out.
See if it's in my notification yet. And there it is.
Hey, at least I know it went out.
Yep. And there's one person there. WTT. First.
Yeah, I know. Hold on, the OBS is kind of bogging itself down. The hell is up with
Yeah,
this?
we shouldn't have said anything about it, right? How smooth it was going.
Right. Well, I mean, it takes a few to load, but damn, now it tells me how much processor it's using, and it's like pinned the processor. Well, hello to everybody that's in the room. I hope you hear me all right. The OBS is kind of giving itself a little bit of a headache, but I don't know why. So either way, we'll just continue, and I mean, it says it's working fine. So how is everybody? Hey, NorCal, Ed, Wayne, WTT, Sudi, Carolina, Keith, lots of people. So, how have things been out in California with you since last we talked? I know the school semester started and you were pretty swamped.
Very good, and I'm looking forward to my summer. We've had plenty of controversial stuff happening out here. If anybody pays attention to what's going on in Los Angeles, issues with Los Angeles Sheriff's Department, and with real documented gang activity in the LA Sheriff's Department. That's been in the news. So yeah, there's been stuff to keep us busy out here, and there's always going to be issues.
Yeah, I can imagine. I think the last time we talked was right after the furry shooting. So,
Oh yeah, yeah.
yeah,
The uh, with the security guard, right? Is that the
yeah,
one?
yeah.
Yeah.
I just talked to her a little while ago. She's doing all right. She's back out there. So,
Hopefully, staying away from crazy security guards.
no, yeah, she's staying away from crazy security guards, but man, I'll tell you what, she's been assaulted several times since we last talked, and she keeps having these freaking cops that detain her, throw her in cuffs, all this stuff without even checking to see what's going on. So they're like automatically taking the word of the caller.
Which is, I mean, it's something that the police normally do, and it's not necessarily the correct thing. Um, yeah, and I don't know what their circumstances. I actually don't. I've never really watched much on her channel. I mean, I did watch that security guard issue because that was, like big news, and but I've never really watched. I haven't seen any of the videos of her getting into it with the police.
Yeah, she was out earlier today. Actually, she had a motorcycle cop immediately go after her, like tell her to put the camera down, all this stuff, and luckily she's got it all audio recorded, and but
And
still,
and police departments just need to like really figure out that it's okay for them to be recorded. I still don't understand the officers that argue about that or try to get people not to record them. It's just dumb. It's dumb. There's no good explanation for it because you got to know better than that.
Yeah, well, hopefully the things are going to change. I don't know if you've heard, but Inside Edition is doing a piece on auditing. Now, we fully expect that they're going to twist it, but
Well, of course,
yeah,
people love the twist,
yeah.
whether it's the media, other people. Like I did a live stream with that other auditor guy that's so popular, that Merv guy.
Oh,
And he just the whole point of him talking to you is just to kind of gotcha and twist whatever you said around, and I mean, so people do it all over. It's just Twitter wouldn't exist, right, if there wasn't people twisting people's words and trying to take what someone said out of context and embarrass them or humiliate them or whatever. It's No matter what we're doing, if you're somewhere with any sort of public view whatsoever, there's going to be people twisting and putting their own agenda. So I'm sure whatever somebody said in an interview to those folks from Inside Edition, hopefully it gets reported fairly accurately, but I don't have a whole lot of faith in that.
well, fortunately, one of the guys they interviewed, he goes by New England Truth here on YouTube. He recorded everything. He's got the entire thing, start to finish, front to back, fully recorded.
Well, and that's what you have to do because I saw somewhere, I don't remember who it was, but it was some guy who's a comedian, and he was being interviewed by some media outlet, major CNN, MSNBC, somebody like that. And then what the interview they put, or was Comedy Central? That's who it was. And they put this guy. They completely cut the video, edited it to make it look like he was saying things that he wasn't saying. But then he published because he filmed it himself too, just like that, which is what you have to do to protect yourself. Because if you don't do that, somebody will. And like in YouTube, all these places, you don't even know what to believe because anybody can chop and cut up video, cut up pictures, make it look like you said something you didn't, and make it where it's very difficult for even a forensic technician to tell that that video is edited. There is some stuff, some counterintelligence type stuff that people are doing, at the government level, and some obviously really great high tech people out there that can make it where you can't tell at all that it's edited. So you just, I don't know, you got to put your message out there. And if Inside Edition is talking to somebody from the auditor community, you got to talk to them, but know that you can't trust them. You can't trust anybody except yourself, maybe your mom.
Yeah, I mean, they interviewed him. They interviewed News Now Houston. They interviewed Mexican Padilla. I don't know if you're familiar with him at all.
Yeah, yeah, I've seen some of their videos because I subscribe to a few channels. I don't watch enough because it's just too much. It's too much to watch. You can only watch so much stuff, so much content on YouTube. But I watch them. I see them because I subscribe to probably most of those channels because I subscribe to a bunch of the auditor channels, and then I just kind of watch ones that for whatever reason it sparks your curiosity and right, good clickbait thumbnail or something.
Yeah, sorry, I was typing, so I'm listening, but well, reading, but yeah. I mean, it's sad that we have to do that, though. It's sad that you have to cover yourself. I mean, I guess it's. Oh man, well, how do you word it? It's the big issue we've been noticing lately is the body cams. A lot of times they're not on, so it's
Yeah, and that's usually that I would imagine that's going to be a violation of department policy, and officers need to be disciplined for that, and that's the only way that'll change. because the body cam is not designed or meant to be on 24 hours a day. That's one of the misconceptions that's out there. But if you're going to stop someone, detain somebody, yeah, it should be on. You're out there having citizen contact, and we don't record everything because I've heard people say, "Oh, well, they're doing something in secret over there and talking, and we want to know what that's happening." Well, that's legit. They're allowed to turn it off if they're going to have a conference and talk about what they're going to do. That doesn't need to be recorded, but the interaction with the public, it should be. And if you get out of your police car to talk to somebody and your body cam's not on, most police agencies, that's going to be a violation of department policy. And the only way, though, that behavior will change is discipline. And discipline, quite frankly, is sometimes lacking in agencies, which you guys all know. It's not a shock, right?
Right.
Oh wow, the police didn't discipline somebody. And every department's different. Every department has some have good track records, some have bad. Because I really dislike it when people try to say, oh, they lump the entire police community into this real negative that hey, cops get away with whatever they want, and that's just not true. But some agencies do a terrible job. Some do an okay job. Some do good. But none of them are perfect. I've never once encountered a police agency where they're just everything they do is correct and right all the time. But some are good. Some do a very good job. If you have an officer that doesn't have their body cam on, they're gonna discipline them for that. But it has to be consistent everywhere. And one of the realities of policing in America is it is not consistent at all. The service you're getting, the training, there's no consistency. It's different from every state, every county, every city. You're getting a different experience.
Yeah, Stunt Dummy asks how law enforcement feels about offshore email addresses being used. I'm not.
Offshore email addresses for like just the public or officers doing it?
I mean, I'm
You mean like
assuming
official business?
official business. I'm assuming.
Oh, yeah, if you're doing that for official business, that's circumventing a public records, freedom of information type laws. Yeah, you shouldn't be doing that. But as far as the public, as long as it's legal, fine. But no, government officials shouldn't be doing that. Shouldn't be doing any sort of sneaky way to get around public disclosure.
Wait, Chi-Town Citizen, no audio. Is everybody hearing us okay? I mean, I'm showing the audio is working fine. So, I mean, normally I would get hammered with 100 texts if the audio got cut.
I just put it on my phone and it's coming through on my phone.
Okay.
But
Yeah, they're saying they hear us.
okay,
Okay, so now what is your thoughts on. Well, I got 2 points, but the first point is qualified immunity.
qualified immunity.
Yeah.
Well, there needs to be some level of protection for law enforcement officers, but probably the way it is in most states right now is probably a little too broad. And so, if a police officer, because it's a difference between what we call malfeasance and misfeasance. Like misfeasance is you make a mistake, but malfeasance is you had bad intentions. And for police officers that make mistakes, having some form of protection from frivolous civil lawsuits is really one of the only things that can keep you from doing your job. But immunity from malfeasance, where you are a bad actor and somebody who acts with bad intention, no, I don't feel that officers should have or need immunity from that. And good police officers should be okay with that, because if you're doing what you're supposed to every day when you go to work, you're the only lawsuits you're ever going to get are the frivolous ones. the ones where someone's just suing you and there's nothing actually to it, which that will happen. If you're a police officer for any length of time, you will get a frivolous lawsuit. But valid for abuse of authority, excessive force, and you and see that's where it's touchy is then who interprets that, right? Who's saying whether the officer, but that should just be up to the courts. And if an officer acts in a bad way with bad intentions, with malice, we use that term malice in the legal system. If they use malice, no, they shouldn't. They should be personally liable and personally responsible, just like any citizen is personally responsible for their action.
Yeah, see that's one of those things that they're talking about in the channel is whether or not body cams should be left on at all times or like Aiden says, cops got to go to the bathroom too. So
Exactly.
how do
They
you
should be able to
control
eat
that?
lunch. Right. They should be able to eat lunch. They should be able to call their husband or wife on the phone and not have everything recorded. It's actually like an absurd extreme to have 24 hours of their day recorded. But citizen contact, absolutely. And some departments have been doing it long before body cams existed. They used to have audio recorders. And like the city I live in right now, I live in Brea, California, in Orange County. Brea, for many, many years before body cams were even a thought, their officers had audio recorders and they were required by department policy the moment they had any citizen contact, the minute they get out of the car, and you would see the officers click the record button, to record those conversations. And when I was an officer, we didn't have body cams, but a lot of us had recorders, our own personal recorders, because the department didn't provide them, just for the purpose of protecting yourselves from a frivolous complaint or a frivolous lawsuit. Because I know we focus on all the bad things cops do sometimes, but the public does a lot of bad things as well. And um, one of the officers I worked with, he's kind of one of those gentle giant kind of guys, big, huge, strapping guy. Um, he got accused by somebody of choking him. The guy said he reached over the counter at the business and lifted him off the ground, choking him. And for people that knew him, they were like, "Well, you're kidding, Ron. Ron doesn't." It seemed ridiculous, but thank God he had a recorder on, because the recorder, then you could hear the audio, and the entire encounter was very cordial. They had a discussion, but there was very clear from the audio nothing happened. So we used to do audio recordings way back then to protect ourselves and to protect the public. And any encounter, it should be on, but 24 hours a day, no. You got to go to the bathroom. You got to be able to eat. You got to be able to have private conversations with your significant others, your family.
Now, what do you think about cops having to pay for their own insurance?
Like their own liability insurance?
Yes.
No, I think it's okay the city paying for that. Because most businesses that you work for, any government entity or business, you don't pay for your liability insurance. I worked as an EMT once upon a time, and your professional liability insurance was paid for by your employer. I think that's fairly reasonable.
Yeah, Mark, I do agree with that. He says body cams should be uploading to a third party server. I do agree with that because far too often, we hear the footage is corrupted, the footage is missing. I mean, that's just with the way technology is these days, it does not fail that much.
The only thing about a third party, I would be more in favor of having somebody at the city or county government that's outside of law enforcement hosting it, like say the city or county's IT department handling it. But when you start going to a third party a private entity, then that could put that at a risk, I would think, of being hacked outside of government control, being misused by private parties. I don't know if there was a way it could be trustworthy, a where a company. But you think about that's the Hillary Clinton email thing, right? Where Hillary Clinton was using a private server for government business. We try to avoid that. We'd want to, but I'm okay taking it outside of the police department, giving it to the county or the city, maybe to the DA's office, where the public defender has just the same access to it. That's fine.
Yeah, there's got to be some way, somehow. Like, I mean, obviously, dispatch can reach the officers in their cars, so perhaps some form of activation, like dispatch gets a call, dispatches car X, Y, and Z to the scene, pushes a button, all car and body cams turn on.
Sure, and I bet that exists already somewhere. I bet somebody's already got that in place because that seems like fairly simple
It
technology.
is.
Because I know here in Orange County, in downtown Fullerton, if you remember a few years ago, there was an incident with some police officers that beat to death a homeless man in downtown Fullerton.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you're familiar with the case at all, but it was a real horrific case. And the officers, there was definitely malice and bad intent, I believe, on the part of at least one of the officers involved in that. And if you go and search for the video and find it, you can hear the audio, and the audio seems very clear that this officer had bad intentions in this encounter. But there they have not just body cams, they have pole cameras in the downtown area, surveillance, and those can be controlled from the dispatch. And so the dispatch turns them on, and the dispatch can focus the camera because you'll see in the video, Kelly Thomas, that was the name of the homeless man. You can see the cameras focus in on the officers, and that's controlled from dispatch. And then the audio feed goes into the police dispatch, and a police commander is listening to that audio the entire time. And so the technology is definitely there, and there should be that. Now, one of the problems, especially with small departments in small towns, is sometimes it really is a financial issue. A lot of the really smaller jurisdictions, some of them are operating on pretty shoestring budgets. Officers don't get a ton of training, and so sometimes financially it could be more of an issue. But for bigger agencies or communities that have the money, have the strong tax base, there's no reason why that shouldn't be in play.
Well, I mean, I'm thinking even in little like hick towns with small budgets, the cops still have cell phones. Put their damn phone in their pocket with the camera pointing out and hit record. I mean,
You don't want to use your private cell phone because then your private cell phone is going to be subject to going to court. I wouldn't do it with my private
well,
phone.
I mean, I'm sure that they could afford phones for the cops. I mean, something is better than absolutely nothing at all.
I agree. I agree. But I don't know. I still think there's going to be places that not everywhere in the country is going to have it.
Yeah, well, but I mean, I'm sure that given the the ability to reach the masses is so easy these days. I'm sure if a police station put out a cry for help, so to speak,
Got a dog visitor.
that I'm sure they could easily get donated cameras or donated finances. There's plenty of people out there that love to support cops.
Yeah, and
So,
I think that's probably something that could help law enforcement seeking that out. But I think we're going to get to the point. I don't know how long it's going to take, but within a few years, where the vast majority of departments will have body cams.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's
It,
just
because they actually, for most agencies, it makes economical sense to have a body cam, because body cams not only are going to show the truth, and I know, like, for the auditor community, they're mostly focused on the bad behavior of the officers, but what those cameras also do is protect from false claims, and they show what really happened. And when cameras were first introduced in patrol cars, where you'd have like the front camera and maybe the back camera. Some agencies, like the agency I worked for, they only had them on the DUI squad cars, and it was an expense issue. But so they piloted them on those first. Well, what they found was guilty pleas started going up, because when you relying on just a testimony of a police officer to document somebody's intoxication, well, having a video proof that the person was bumbling and stumbling and drunk, it made it so people were just taking plea deals, because when the video would be played in court, the video would tell the story. So it's economical, and if you're thinking more long term, because it could prevent lawsuits, because police departments settle lawsuits all the time, even when there's no even if you could say, hey, we can't prove that this incident occurred, uh, the city will write a check. If you look at LAPD, Los Angeles Police Department, and look at all the settlements they give out these $20,000 and $30,000 settlements all the time that aren't really substantiated, because it's cheaper just to give someone $20,000 bucks. But if
mm,
you have video and audio of it, well, then that's going to disappear. So I think it's a win for everybody. For people that want the police accountable, yeah, body cams are a big step for that. And for the police officers to protect yourself from false accusations, protect yourself, from frivolous lawsuits. And I don't know why any police department would resist body cams. It's a foolish thing to resist.
well, it's kind of like Mustang, Oklahoma. We've got a guy out there, OKC Vet HPA. He's been dealing with a lot of crap with the cops there. They pulled over his kids and one of their friends,
Mm-hmm.
and it was the whole, they searched, they found weed, but they really didn't have any PC to search the passengers, which were his kids. But ironically, like, all the dash cams and all the cars don't work. And like you were talking about with guilty pleas, there has not been a single case tried in court in over 20 years. So,
A single case in this jurisdiction you're talking
yeah,
about, or
Mustang, Oklahoma.
yeah. Well, I guess that's good reason not to live in Mustang, Oklahoma. And I agree. I think sometimes in the small towns, that's where some of your law enforcement is the worst. It can be some of the best. You can have really great small town cops, but you hear these stories a lot of times. It's in really small communities where they feel like they're really above the law, and that consequences don't happen for them. A lot of times it's in really small communities where they feel like they're really above the
Hey,
law,
what are you doing?
and so don't happen.
Anyways, so yeah, I mean, the funny thing is, his kids they're taking it to court because he wants to fight it. We've all saw the footage from it, and yeah, you could see that they're searching the kids. Yeah, like they got his daughter right out of the car, and the friends started recording everything,
Mm-hmm.
and they don't even like read her any rights or nothing. She's a minor. They didn't offer to call her parent, nothing, and they searched her. So that's And then the kicker on that is there was some footage, one of the body cams or something of it. They won't give it to him because they say she's a minor. Now it's his daughter, but they say she's a minor, so they can't give it to him.
Well, they need to file suit on that because I, I I don't know, unless there's something weird in Oklahoma state law, there could be something about restricting footage involving minors, but I doubt it. That's just them probably messing with them, and they just need to file a lawsuit on that and then get that released. But see, then the problem is that costs money, right? Costs money to have an attorney, but they need to find an attorney that will help them in that because that sounds like BS to me.
Oh, you gotta see, man, they've charged him thousands of dollars for FOIA stuff, big, camera footage, microphone foot or sound recordings, any of that. They literally gave him a stack of CDs that were like 40 seconds long and then charged him for each CD. I mean, they really nailed him bad and they charged him thousands. So,
Yeah, well, I won't be moving to Mustang.
yeah, I mean, it's ridiculous. He even asked the cop or the chief, why don't the dash cams work? You should have at least operational dash cams. The chief's reasoning was, well, we're going to get new cars in a couple years anyway, so we're not going to fix them.
I would imagine you could fit the dash cam and then move it to the new car. We do that. We take the light bars off and we'll put those sometimes on new cars. All that electronic equipment is taken out when they sell those cars. And, we have the low jack and all that. That all goes to the new car. So that's probably a pretty silly argument. They just don't want to do it.
Yeah, I mean, it just screams corruption. It makes the public think, what do you got to hide? Why are you so resistant? You know, work with the public instead of against them. There would be a lot better encounters. I mean, like, you could see, I don't know if you've ever followed Eric Brandt at all, but he's very, very outgoing, outspoken, very vocal. Um, he has no problem with cursing a cop out or anything like that. And we may or may not all agree with each other's methods, but he does make change. I mean, like he just showed earlier today, like right before this stream, he was filming a motorcycle accident that motorcycle hit a train or train hit a motorcycle, however you want to look at it. There was a problem with the bike. It kept going, hit the train, blah blah. The cops all know him by name. They're all, "Hey Eric, how you doing, Eric? What's up, Eric?" I mean, like literally, these cops all knew him by name, and they didn't have any problem with him filming at all.
Yeah, and they shouldn't. They shouldn't.
Yeah, but I mean, there's other areas he goes to where, like, literally, he's in cuffs within 30 seconds of them showing up. And they're just desperate to find any reason to arrest him. And so those are the ones that we're trying to focus on more and more. But working with him, Eric is very pleasant, very fun guy. You just, when you piss him off, he explodes. You
Yeah, and
know,
I have seen some of those videos, and I saw one with, is it Colorado Donkey Watch? Is that what he calls himself, or something like that?
yeah,
Yeah, where
CDW.
he was chasing these cops, down the street while they were making traffic stops. And those are the things that, like, I disagree with, where a cop is making a traffic stop. They're not showing to have done anything wrong. And he was chasing and screaming at them about the traffic stop. And then there was one particular video that what I thought was ironic is that he's a pedestrian and a car comes close to hitting him and he's upset about that, right? That the car comes close to hitting him, but yet that he doesn't want
I'm
the
going to stop
cops.
you
He doesn't
because
want the cops to do enforcement.
I know Colorado Donkey Watch does not scream and holler at the cops.
There's a video out there where
It might be another
yeah,
auditor.
there's a
Maybe
video.
it's Pikes Peak.
It's and I'll look through, but I'm pretty sure it was that one. And he was, and let me look at my messages because he sent me. We've communicated an email. Uh, yeah, it was with two motorcycle officers while they were making their stops.
Yeah, he probably uploaded that, but it probably was not him that did the video.
Pikes Peak. That's
Thank
it.
you.
Sorry,
Yeah.
I'm confusing them.
Thank
There's
you.
there's too many auditors. I can't keep them all straight.
Yeah, I can jump in and correct that one because I know them.
It's Pikes Peak. Is that sound right? Like that's who it would have been?
Yeah, Pikes Peak has done that. Yeah.
And to me, that's not constructive. And then, hey, if you wanted, now you're making enemies of officers, like you're intentionally provoking, as opposed to, hey, I'm going to observe them. I'm going to find wrongdoing, which I'm all for. If the cops are misbehaving, acting incorrectly, treating people badly, that should be exposed.
Yeah, like I said, there's a lot of us that have been going back and forth with who do you agree with, who you do not agree with. But the bottom line is a lot of change has been getting made across the board. I mean, we got a guy that's got policy changed in New Jersey. We got laws that have been changed in Texas. A lot's been changed in Colorado. A lot's been changed in California. We got people I had on last night that are taking some cases to the Fifth Circuit, so they'll probably end up making law.
Yeah, and the laws will change a lot, because of some of the things in the auditor community, for good and for bad. I think one of the negatives that auditors do is the going into the parking lots and filming cars and stuff like that. I'm not really sure what the point of that is. And all that's going to do now is make police departments enclose their parking lots where you can't get to them, restrict access. Because one of the things that I think that people ignore is that there is a danger that officers face from people that target them and target them with serious death threats. That we deal sometimes, that we like to minimize it, but no, we deal with some extremely dangerous people at times, extremely violent people that are involved in drug cartels. And no, not the guy who has marijuana in his back pocket. No, I'm talking about people that are very, very dangerous individuals. And yet then they go and they want to film the undercover cars, film the officers' personal cars. That also raises, where officers then look at, hey, these auditors are not looking, they're actually looking to harm us, not just film us.
Yeah. Well, it's. I just lost my train of thought here. Sorry, I saw a bunch of
It's all right,
cats.
because I was a cop in Tucson, Arizona, and we were close to the border. We have extremely dangerous people that we dealt with, very dangerous, and people that would firebomb your house, people that could take you out. We had attempted assassinations of officers, and we've seen those over the last couple of years where bad stuff has really happened and officers have been assassinated. So, I think the police need to behave better and act better. But things like filming their plainclothes cars or filming their personal vehicles just because you can, that to me isn't very wise.
Yeah, I mean, there are like I said, we don't all agree with the methods of each other. I mean, hey, to Larry, there are people that do things that we don't all agree with. Sometimes we bring it up, sometimes we don't. A lot of times, though, you could see the evolution in auditing. If like you're talking about with backlots and private stuff, you don't see that nearly as much as you do back a year ago. I mean, because a lot of auditors are like, that's silly. Don't do that. It's like filming post offices. What's the point?
That one has always bothered me. I thought, what? Leave the postal worker alone. I mean, they're not like out there hurting anyone, And sometimes the postal worker was a jerk because the camera's in their face. But I know it's like this. Sometimes there's the extreme that everything should be filmed or everything, going into the psychiatric office. I've seen some of those social services. That to me, just I don't understand that. I think police officers are fair game. Police officers working are fair game. Um, but trying to target people's personal vehicles, like I saw somebody said that, um, that something about, hey, that if it's in their parking lot, like if it films it, if it would endanger them, they wouldn't put them where they can be seen. Well, most police departments don't have real secure private parking lots. Some do. I've been to some. If you go to the city of Brea, where I live, if some auditors were in this area, and so the Brea police are going to thank me for this. Yeah, you're welcome, Brea cops. But their parking garage is a completely secure garage. You can't even get access to. It's in a underground garage, and it's got big, huge gates. You can't even get to it. It's all a restricted area, and that's probably what more departments are going to do. They'll make things restricted, make things off limits.
Yeah, but I mean, yeah, like I said, if they're visible from public, they're visible from public. Period. I get that. I understand both sides on that one. Um,
I
but
understand too the logic behind it. I just think it's not really valuable to do. What's that doing? How is that exposing police misconduct or corruption to
well,
go to a police?
see, that's another misinterpretation people have of auditing. It's not just about exposing bad cops. It's about the freedom to film in public. Period. Whether it's involving cops or involving the guy standing at the bus stop. A lot of people make that mistake that we're out to get cops, that we're out to hate cops, that we're out to make cops look bad. That's not the case at all. It's about filming in public. And it just so happens that it's the one thing we can do that's 100% legal. And we can still gauge how our officials will react to that legal act. That's why auditing picked up so much steam the way it did. Is because there really, if there was another way that people could do it, we'd have found it by now. The auditing community would have added it to their repertoire. I mean, it's just so it's not just about making or filming cops or exposing police corruption. So you got to think of it on a much broader scale. Now, the post office thing, I say that it's wrong because they were interpreting the law wrong. There when it comes to post offices, there's Poster 7, all that. I don't know if you're familiar with any of that, but bottom line is you'll see a whole bunch of people quoting Poster 7. Oh, Poster 7 allows us to come in here and film. Poster 7 lets us come in here and film you working. Wrong. They've stopped reading at the part where it says you can film in the lobby and all that. They skip right past the line that says except where prohibited by. Yeah, and so a lot of people were screwing that up, and we actually have some people that had to take deals and whatnot on filming in post offices because they realized there was really nothing they could do about it. And they knew that they were trying, the cops were trying to make, or the courts were trying to make examples of them. Pink Camera Magic is in the channel now. She's one of them. Yeah, see, it's okay to film from the public sidewalk. They tried to make an example of her. They tried to put her in jail for months with no bail or like some ridiculously high bail, or take the deal on this just because of a trespassing charge at a post office.
Yeah,
Now they like that's ridiculous. They it was with her partner Chi-Town Sue, who was with her at that one. They actually like that's a good one too. Cause it's funny because they actually were sitting in the cop car handcuffed, live streaming with the phone pointing up to them in the back of the cop car. But both of them were forced. They had to either take the deal, pay a ridiculous bail amount, or sit in jail through trial. And a lot of people were like, "Oh, you guys suck. You took the deal. You're not a real auditor." But no, Pink shouldn't have had to sit there through all that and pay for a lawyer and all that crap because she was trespassed at a post office. So,
Yeah, no, and that's silly.
and the kicker was, and she tells you in the channel, and I left. If you watch the video, they don't arrest her in Chi-Town until after they're leaving, and they're already like down the road.
Which isn't the way a trespass arrest should be done anyway. Trespassing is, when the police arrive and you have someone that's still refusing to leave. Under normal circumstances, you're arresting them, not somebody who's already voluntarily left the scene. Normally,
Right. Well,
there could be reasons, but that's abnormal.
Right. Well, I mean, the trespass law there, if you read it, which I did back then, but it's basically the same as we're in New York and in most places, is you have to be given the opportunity to leave before they can criminally trespass you. And when given the opportunity to leave, they left. Yeah, the cops never even went inside. It was funny because they were inside filming the cops through the window. The cops were outside the post office. Finally, they just decide to leave. They're walking down the sidewalk with the cops following them. And then they finally decide to arrest him. And like I said, they put him in the back of the car and left the phone running.
And also, normally, a proper police response would be, let's say you are going to make an arrest. Let's say that you got a victim who says, I want to prosecute these people for trespassing, and you have people that have left the scene or are voluntarily leaving. That should not be somebody who's booked into a jail. That should be someone who is a field release, a case that's documented with a summons to appear in court.
An ROR.
And then it can be, and it can be settled in court. You wouldn't be booking that person into a jail.
Yeah, well, look at what she just said in the channel, what she had to go through as a result of that.
$2 weeks and
in 2.5 months.
The Cook County Jail, don't you think they have better, or there's more people that probably should be in the jail that aren't? Because if Cook County, a big city, most urban jails, they have like a certain number of people that are in the jail. My beginning of my career, I started in the jail. And say, this is your occupation. You have 1,000 beds or whatever. Cook County is going to be in the thousands.
Right.
You have 1,000 beds. Every day when they're doing arraignments, the presiding court judge is usually on the phone with a captain who's in charge of the jail. How much bed space do you have? The bed space dictates who gets released and who doesn't on any given day. And so there are people that have maybe committed dangerous offenses and that are a danger to the public, a danger to their victims, that then there's no bed space. And you're wasting bed space on somebody who trespassed at a post office Yeah, that's absurd.
Yeah, I mean, Cook County Jail. That jail is bad. Let's face it. I mean, where I live, the jail is bad, but Cook County is worse.
Yeah,
And
that's a massive. There was a massive problem there. A police supervisor should have been doing their job and said, "No, you're not booking that person into the jail if they get field release."
yeah, see, there was a girl there who was arrested for hijacking, and her bail was half of what Amanda's was.
Yeah, no, there's that.
That's retaliation for you, okay?
Yeah, well, and that's a clear abuse, and it's a contempt of cop. And you don't arrest people for contempt of cop. Now, full disclosure and honesty, when I was a rookie cop, I made a contempt of cop arrest, but I learned my lesson because the sergeant told me that basically that's what you just did. You arrested this person for contempt of cop. And what had happened was the person had a crack pipe in their hand. I saw them with it and I said, hey, I was going to detain them for the crack pipe. And she took the crack pipe and threw it on the ground and smashed it. Well, technically, that's destruction of evidence, right? That's destroying evidence. But that doesn't really meet the criteria for us for a destruction of evidence arrest. But I arrested her for that, charged her the felony, and my sergeant put a stop to it. And my sergeant said, no, field release that girl. You're not booking her into jail for a felony. That's contempt of cop. You only did it because you were pissed at her. But see, I had a good police supervisor. I had a good supervisor that put a stop to it. And then I knew, and then I learned I was, a rookie. And rookie cops, it's easy to get full of yourself thinking, hey, you have all this power, and the power goes to your head. But it requires good supervision. And unfortunately, like in her situation, there was not a good supervisor there, somebody to say, no, this isn't proper. Because it's absurd to book somebody for trespassing at a post office. That's absurd.
Yeah, well, there was another instance with her. I know there's not a lot of details, but much public knowledge of it is that footage was deleted from her camera and was recovered. So, I mean, that you could saw. What made me think of that is Stephen Tunis just said, like when cops destroy evidence by stopping and deleting videos of auditors, which has happened.
Yeah, and they should be prosecuted. If a police officer deletes and destroys evidence, that they should be prosecuted. That and on any jurisdiction in the country, that's going to be a felony.
Yeah, well, see, I'm glad you brought up your story of when you were a rookie, because one of the things that floats around all the time is you don't hear a lot about cops busting cops, cops turning cops in, cops telling cops they're doing wrong. Now, a lot of times,
I think that that's a little bit of a myth.
well, we can only go by what we see. And if you go by what our videos, like you yourself just said, she should not have been arrested for that. Now, there are countless auditor videos of auditors being arrested for contempt of cop. It's blatantly obvious. And no other, there could be 9 cops there, and not one of them stopped that cop.
There's a lot of bad policing. I can't deny it, but I think there's a lot of stuff we don't see where there is somebody that's doing what they're supposed to. There are supervisors that are schooling officers on how to do things the right way that we just don't see or don't hear about. Because, like my incident, nobody would have ever heard that. It was never on video. But a lot of these contempt of cop issues, they never should have happened. And you're absolutely right. Nobody stepping in and doing it. But I do think it is not correct that officers aren't busting other officers. And where you can find that out, it depends on your state and what your state's disclosure laws are. But like in the state of Arizona, officer discipline is all public, and you go through the state post, the Arizona Post. I believe every quarter releases all the actions they take on officers, and they fire, terminate, prosecute a lot of police officers, and a lot of those stories come to light because of an officer. There was one case in Tucson that was in the news way back when, where an officer was stealing from dead people. The officer would go on death calls, and like he took a ring or a watch or something, and another officer saw it, and the officer turned him in. So it does happen. Um, Not as much as it should. I'm going to agree with you in some of these cases without knowing what video you're talking about. If it's clearly a contempt of cop, somebody should have stepped in.
Well, even not just contempt of cop, it was also just brought up. That security guard that shot Furry, the DA refused to prosecute. Now,
What?
yeah,
But see, okay, now that's weird because I never paid attention to the story past the initial, but from what I understood, the police arrested the security guard and charged him, right?
they arrested him and then they took him and let him go.
And then
And
he didn't
the
file.
DA refused to file.
Wow. Um, I don't know why the DA didn't file because I haven't read the report. But no matter what, it's a negligent discharge at the very least, which in California, I thought having a gun and shooting it off illegally would be enough to get you locked up.
You would think.
It's a pretty anti-gun state. So that seems pretty crazy. I'm pretty surprised nobody was prosecuted on that. The DA must have. I don't know how cooperative she was with them. If they felt like if witnesses aren't good, although it's all caught on video, so I'm not understanding why. I'm gonna have to look that up. Why they wouldn't file and
Right.
see if there's the disclosure on that because that seems insane.
Yeah, I
And
mean,
if I find out anything, I'll actually that's something that's worthy of doing a video on because good lord, I mean it was caught on video. Pretty much from my perspective, as clear as can be that security guard was 100% at fault, and not only should never be a security guard again or carry a gun, but should have been prosecuted for some form of a negligent discharge, an endangerment. Because I don't really think the security guard was trying to shoot her. I don't know, but I don't know what was in his head, and maybe they couldn't prove that, like an attempted murder or something. But at the very least, that was negligent discharge of that weapon, um, a felony endangerment at the very least, and something should have been charged.
yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. Yeah, I mean, it's just, yeah, initially she was not cooperative, of course, because A, she just got shot. She was upset. B, they showed up and immediately put her in cuffs while she's laying there bleeding. Both, I mean, for all they knew, it could have been arterial. They didn't even check any of that. They immediately cuffed her. She's laying on the ground saying, I've been shot, and they immediately cuffed her. So, of course, she initially was not cooperative. But she did cooperate. She did, offer them the footage, everything, which is why she was released and why they took him. And then once they got him downtown, they let him go.
Yeah, there's no good excuse for that.
And somebody has said she's been battered.
Invictus, Brian, we got to know Invictus Media bailed out because he doesn't like me because I'm a blue line gang flag supporter. Just wanted to point that out.
Okay. Well, you guys, I mean, Law and I don't see eye to eye on everything, but he does try to see our side of things. So give him credit for that.
Well, and you see, this is one of the biggest problems with the internet and America in general, is that we have people that are lined up on different positions of whatever the issues are, and no one wants to actually communicate and dialogue with each other. People want to name call, flame throw, whether it's a Democrat Republican thing, a Trump thing, whatever it is, whatever the issue, it doesn't matter. It's all the same. Where people flame throw, we call the other people evil, bad, not that someone has a different viewpoint or someone doesn't see it the way we do. It's they're evil and they're bad. And we're never going to bridge any gaps in our country if we can't talk to each other. And I'm very grateful for the job that I have as a teacher, because I can have people that have different all kind of viewpoints, and we can talk in a place where we're not calling each other names and stuff. But hopefully we can get better.
Yeah, I agree. But
Says telling a fellow cop is one thing. Have you ever testified against a fellow cop? Somebody asked. And somebody's also asked, were you ever instructed to fire a warning shot? No one ever says, I did dialogue with you. You called me a cop hater. Well, what did you say, Invictus? Did you say something pretty nasty? Because normally if I call someone a cop hater in a chat, it's because they say something pretty nasty. So I would like to look up the comment on that.
hey, man, but
someone asked, did I ever testify against a fellow cop? No, I was never involved in any criminal cases against fellow cops. I have told people that what they were doing was wrong. And you could probably find, if you were searching for Tucson police officers, there's some Tucson police officers that didn't like me because I tried to always do things the right way and would call people out when I didn't feel they were doing things right. There's a couple officers I know that, yeah, I always say that if I was on fire, they probably wouldn't urinate on me to put the fire out because they thought that I wasn't. So, Long Smoke, have you ever done a desk pop? No, I've never done a desk pop.
What the hell is a desk pop?
There was a movie with, oh my gosh, the comedian, oh my gosh, it's with Mark Wahlberg, I think, and the guy from Talladega Nights. And he's a new cop or new to their department. He tells them everybody does a desk pop where you have an accidental discharge in the office. And then, of course, they're joking with him, but then he does it. No one really does that in real life. There are accidental discharges that do happen, and almost every police station probably has a bullet hole in it.
Yeah, well, what happened to Furry was, I mean, what still kills me, though, to this day, aside from hearing her screams, is the guy coming up and saying that was a warning shot, and then telling her if she moves, he's going to shoot her again.
Yeah, no, that's insane. Yeah, it was insane. And how somebody wasn't prosecuted, I don't know. But hey, it's 6:00. I got to go because we're actually having someone over for dinner. But thank you, Brian, for having me again. I really appreciate it. And just remember, if there's some issue that you want a different perspective, I will come and talk anytime, even to Invictus, even though I probably was mean to him in the chat. Because I'm going to confess something, Brian. Sometimes I do get a little short with people. I have done that.
I do too.
I've gotten short with people when I've just gotten irritated. But I apologize if I ever said something mean to Invictus. But
yeah, the gang
sometimes I get a little short fused. But I try. I'm taking pills for that. I got a patch. Someone fill me out.
All right. Well, I appreciate you coming on, man.
All right. Thank you, Brian, and you have a good rest of your night while I try to figure out how to log out of it.
Yeah. All right, man. Just hit the X.
All right. There we go. Leave meeting.
Well, everybody, that was Long Smoke. It is good to be able to. I mean, the guy's a law professor, for crying out loud. It's nice to be able to get that kind of perspective. And Nightcrawler, I left you a message on one of your videos about setting up a stream. It will not be tonight. Not in not too long. Tex Rose is gonna be doing a video premiere. So I encourage everybody to go when that happens, and if you're not subscribed to her, please do so you get the notification. Show support for her. So, I mean, unless anybody else has got anything off the top of their head, I appreciate everybody coming and hanging out and, giving Law a chance and hearing them out. I mean, I enjoy talking to them. So, yeah, I know, Tunis. I rarely get them too. I've tried everything, nothing works. So, but either way, like I said, Nightcrawler, check out that message I left you on your newest video, and I'm right there with you about Mouse and how nuts he is and how he should be banned from everywhere. So, yes, Sarah, thank you. Yeah, so check out Tex Rose's premiere, guys. It's she said it was gonna be about 9 o'clock Central Time, so 6 o'clock. That would make it 7 o'clock Pacific and 10 o'clock Eastern. So thank you all for joining, and I gotta go wrap this cord up. So I'll talk to y'all later. Thanks.